All right, so just jumping right into modeling the toes, I'm going to sort of prepare modeling the toes by giving them a sort of cutout area, because I'm going to actually model the toes as a separate piece of geometry and then connect them. And as I said before, I'm giving this guy like a big gap between his big toe and his little toes, so that's what I'm just starting with first. And the sort of benefit of this is that you can sort of model one toe, or in this case you would basically model two toes. You would model a big toe and then one little toe, and then the little toes are so similar to each other you could really just like duplicate them and get, you know, close to the same sort of result. So that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm starting with so I have the space for the big toe, and as I'm just sort of making the space for them, I can tweak these vertices as I go, but I'm going to just delete those faces, kind of make a hole for them. So I have one. I need room for 3 more. So one could just be like little tiny foot toe there. It can just be like that. So I need space for 2 more. And you want to give them a little bit of a gap in between. You know, like I'm giving them this gap in between here. Even if it's not much, because you want them to have a little bit of space and in between them. And up here I'm creating triangles, and like I said, some of these I'll probably need to go in and tweak more because they're kind of oblong at the moment, but they'll sort of all fit into place when I actually make the toes. So at the moment I don't have toes to sort of plug into these holes, but I'm just sort of anticipating that, and when I do, it will make my life a lot easier. You know, the fact that because I'm going to have to do this anyway, basically. So it'll make my life a lot easier to just go ahead and make the holes for the toes. And I have triangles I'm making here, which is fine. Again, I'll probably end up tweaking a lot of this geometry. So yeah. Once I have something like that, I have the space for those 5 toes. I have 4 there, one big one there. These edges, probably going to want to bend in a little bit like that. All right, so then I can work on the toe, and I'm just going to basically box model the toe. I'm going to start with a cube. So create polygon cube. And it's important, again, to be looking at reference of what a toe looks like and how a toe is shaped, especially a big toe, because it's shaped slightly different than a regular toe. You know, it's got kind of this weird shape, and everyone's toes are a little bit different. But you know, even if you have to like stop and, you know, prop your own foot up and sort of look at your own foot, that's probably a good idea. I mean, I think it would help a lot. So I'm going to start with a cube again, and just start by sort of scaling it to match my reference a little bit. You know, even from my for my side view, even though my reference doesn't really match up here, I can still kind of go in and use that as sort of a guide to scale it up a little bit, and I'll probably be tweaking it a little bit as I go anyway. So so then I can add some edge loops. So add a couple edge loops here and go in and tweak this a little bit more from the side. And chances are it's going to go, we'll connect it there for now, but there'll be a sort of crease there eventually. And then I can look at it from sort of a top angle. Oops. All of those guys. You can probably go ahead and delete that interface, since it's something that I'm going to combine and connect to the foot anyway. So start rounding it out a little bit. So it's getting there. I can probably start adding a little bit more emphasis on like the curvature and the shape. This guy probably needs an edge loop down the middle right here. And I can bring these edges in a little bit to give them a little bit more of a round shape. Give this guy another edge loop. I'm going to try and do this fairly quickly so we can sort of get to the other toes, and I think you kind of end up spending a little more time connecting and positioning them, or at least just as much time connecting and positioning the toes as you do actually creating them. And start bringing this in to sort of match up. So, okay, that is looking like a pretty good toe. Now, as far as a toenail goes, that's kind of a a choice you're going to have to make in how to do the toenail. If you're doing a hyper-realistic character, you're probably going to want to model the toenail separately and attach it, because you're going to want those to be different materials. So it's kind of up to you how you want to do the toenails. Sometimes what I do with toenails is, if I say I use these two faces to sort of create my toenails, I can select those two guys. I will extrude them in a little bit and then down, and that will give you sort of like a toenail, a place for a toenail like that. And then you can take those two faces again, you can extrude them up like that, and then you can take these two guys and extrude them out, and that will give you a toenail pretty easily, pretty quickly. It gives you a toenail. You might want to come in and move some of these vertices down, tweak some of these guys, because they're kind of like these guys on the very tip of the toe. Bring them down a little bit. So something like that. I think that toenail might be a little weird looking. Might be a little thick. So you can always just come in and sort of edit it. Bring it down a little bit. Bring it in a little bit. Like I said, it's completely up to you. I mean, if your character that you're working on is kind of stylized and you don't really want to even, you don't want it to even have toenails or fingernails, then by all means you don't even have to model toenails and fingernails. If your character is like a real-time model for video games or something, your toenails and fingernails will really just be kind of textured on there. And you know, if it's a high poly model of some sort used for film, then you might want to model them separate, so you can actually like apply a different type of translucent material to them, so you actually see through the nail and into the cuticle. So there is the first toe. I have it separate, so if I want, I can sort of just scale it up. I can move it around, and I may be able to sort of take this big toe and duplicate it and use it for the little toes too. We'll just have to wait and see. So first, I'll go ahead and connect these guys together and see how that looks. So I will do that by going to selecting both of those objects, so shift select, and then going to edit mesh, or sorry, mesh combine, and now that would make them one model. And then I'm going to use my target weld, so that's going to be under mesh tools, target weld, and then I can go in and just weld all these vertices to sort of where around the area of where they belong. There's going to be some that that I need to recreate, because there's going to be some vertices. There's going to be some areas where I just don't have the vertices to connect them to. So I may have to go in and draw a couple sort of lines or something to get those to match up. So mainly I need one around here. I can probably get away with just connecting that to there for now. So I basically just need one on top and one on the bottom, so I can grab my Multicut tool, if I can get it to work. There we go. And then use my target weld again. Go ahead and add that to my shelf and weld those two guys together, and then just hit smooth, see what that looks like. It's a little funky. There's some tweaking I do need to do. So this vert is probably too low down. Should be a little bit more like this. Now I just realized that I made the mistake of sort of connecting the toe up before I duplicated it off. So I'm going to have to go back and extract it to get it to duplicate it. So shouldn't be too much of a big deal though. So doesn't look too bad. I still think that toenail is kind of funky. I may just get rid of the toenail altogether. I think I'm going to do that. So, let's see, just start deleting edges. Probably be the best way to get rid of that. And then we just we're back at sort of just like a stylized toe and no toenail. We'll see. I'll think about the toenails. But in the meantime, I can use this model here to go ahead and create my other toes. So I'm going to do that. So I need to extract it from the model. So I'm going to select those faces. And I'm going to go to Mesh, Extract, and that should make it two models. Maybe let me back up there. So Mesh, let's look at the settings. Separate extracted faces, that's what I want. Then I can duplicate one of those toes off like that, and then I can recombine these guys. So Mesh, Combine, and then I can grab those vertices and I'll go to Edit Mesh, Merge Components, and just make sure my threshold is fairly low. And that should merge those guys back together so it looks nice again. And then I can start thinking about my other toes. So we'll go to Modify Center Pivot. I'm going to, obviously my other toes are going to be a little skinnier and longer. So I'm going to go ahead and just start editing those other toes a little bit. All these toes are going to be a lot more similar to each other than the big toe. So something like that. And again, make sure you're looking at reference. I'm kind of not doing it as much as I should. And you know, some toes have like weird sort of curves to them, so you can go in and sort of curve them around. Start getting it in place there. So it's probably going to be a lot taller like that. And then for the other guys, I can duplicate those off. I can start shrinking them down a little bit. Start editing them so they kind of match up to this other toe a little bit better. What I find is toes kind of like, or these four toes anyway, will start to kind of almost like these two guys in the center are going to get really squished together. So you're going to kind of get some weird stuff going on there with them just being squished together like that. So then I can duplicate this guy again, shrink him down a little bit more. Oops. They're all kind of rotated a little bit weird, so I'm going to rotate them in a little bit. They eventually start to kind of straighten out, so your one on the very end there will be kind of just pointing straight ahead. So something I'm trying to achieve. And then we'll duplicate this guy again. And like I said, he's going to be kind of pointing straight ahead, being really sort of folded in there. Like that. So yeah, it's looking good. I think it's a good point to always like back way out and look at it. I think the big toe could actually be a little bit bigger, sort of, because right now it's about the same width, so I'm just going to scale that guy up a little bit. Alright, so that is the feet and toes. Now we just need to connect them. Let me just really quick look at my time, 22 minutes. I can probably do this in 10 minutes. So yeah, we're just going to grab all of these guys, go to Mesh, Combine, and start target welding things together here where we can. Oops. And where we can't, we are going to add more geometry so we can. A lot of these triangles that I'm creating, I can end up turning into quads. Oops. This target weld tool kind of gets away with you, gets away of you sometimes, so you have to watch for that. Sometimes it's just easier from the inside, even though it can be pretty confusing trying to keep track of what's going on in there. Occasionally just smooth it to see how you're doing. See how things are connecting up. I may have bit off a little more than I can chew, saying I could do it in 10 minutes. We'll see. We still need to attach it to still need to attach it to the leg. And when I'm done with this body, I'm probably going to do something similar to what I did with the head, and just do like a time lapse of me going around and tweaking things like crazy, so you can sort of see the process of that. Gotta be really careful not to connect the wrong vertices up. Something you don't want it to be connected to. Looks okay from a distance. A little weird. I think these two toes might be a little small compared to these two, but it's not too bad for the most part. I just need to sort of go in and make sure I get these connected up properly with some more geometry that I'm going to have to go back and fix later. So multi-cut. I got all these triangles here that I will fix later, all in due time. And then I can just select them, and if I know that I only have two selected, I can just go to Edit Mesh, Merge Components, and if there's only two selected, it will just merge those two together. If there's more than two, it won't do anything. I just have these two guys. And those two guys. And one right there. Alrighty. Let me go in and I'm going to shrink these two toes a little bit. What you can do is you can grow your selection. So I could go in and I can try to select just these two toes, but I'm going to end up selecting some vertices in here. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select these four faces, these four tips of the toes, and I'm going to hit Shift and my arrow key. So to the left of my question mark, there's like a little right arrow pointer thing, and if you hold Shift and hit that, that's grow selection, and Shift and the one next to it, the one that's pointing to the left, is a shrink selection. So I can do that until I have the toes selected, and then I can shrink them down a little bit, sort of move them around to get their placement a little bit better, so it looks a little bit better. And these guys definitely need to come in some. Like that. Alright, so there's his foot. It looks funny. I actually think all of these guys are a little too small now that I look at it, so I'm just going to select all of them and scale them all up a little bit. And that looks a little bit better. Okay, so now I just need to maybe connect that to the foot. Let's see, I do think this looks a little weird. I'm going to be, tweaking now that I have a lot more going on in my model. And you get to a point where you sort of have so much in your model that, you're going to constantly notice like little things that need to be tweaked. And that's okay. That's something you need to kind of keep an eye on and constantly tweak things. If, as you see something that's just like glaring out at you, go in and fix it. Don't wait. Don't say, oh, I'll get back to that later, because you might not notice it later. So it's good to just go ahead and sort of fix things as you find them. So let's see, now I can grab his foot or his leg, and I'll sort of move his foot into position. Let's go ahead and grab these guys and move them up a little bit, since we're going to be connecting it with that foot, the heel. And same thing we did with the toes. We're just going to select both of those guys, go to Mesh, Combine, and I'm just going to use my target weld and just go in and weld the vertices that kind of make sense to match up. Some of them won't make sense, and we may have to go in and make more geometry. But that's where all of these triangles are going to come in. If I'm working on a section and I say I just don't really have an area to connect like that edge, I can use sort of this triangle and go up here, and then I can use that to connect an edge. So it looks like that's going to be happening quite a bit in the back of the foot. Let's just say that one goes there. So I can take my tool here and go ahead and say, well, I can get rid of that triangle by bringing this all the way up here, and then welding that together. Probably have a triangle, one of these guys that I can get rid of. Oops, what was that? Using the wrong tool somehow. There we go. Probably could have just done an edge loop, a lot easier than that, but so I have another one there. Okay. So some areas you're going to find, like here, that I have an edge loop going here, and I really could have probably connected this guy instead. So you can come around and sort of redo the whole thing. And then let's see. For now, I'm just going to make some triangles. Like I said, I'm going to go back and tweak everything quite a bit towards the end of finishing up the body. But for now, I just kind of want to get things connected and working. I don't quite know why that's not working. My target weld seems to have gone crazy on me. So let me go ahead and delete my history. Now, I do see a thick line there, so that means there might be some issue going on. Probably something to do with my normals being reversed. Just sort of thinking about it. So what I want to do here is go to select my model, go to normals, conform, and basically what that will do is select normals that aren't sort of facing the same direction as everything else. So it selected those guys. So now I can go to normals, reverse, and that should have sort of fixed some of those issues. We still have some stuff going on there, but we can fix that. So let's see. Let's go ahead and make that a triangle just for the heck of it. Can go back and fix it later, like I said. Alrighty, so there is the foot. You go ahead and duplicate special again, which that is not what I just did. Edit, duplicate, special, apply, turn our eyes back on. Guy has feet, look pretty well. His legs I'm not too happy with yet. I still need to sort of work on his legs a little bit. He is going to be wearing pants though, so I'm not super concerned about his legs. His feet are going to be more of a focal point than his legs, but overall I like his feet. So next we can move on to the arms and hands.